I've listened to everyone that wanted to speak. I haven't interrupted, and I would ask the same from you. Hear me out. I ask the same from the City Council. We'll all get a chance to speak. And I ask that you let me finish my thoughts without interruption. I would appreciate that very much. I'm going to talk about a few things this evening. Let me get to my list. I'm going to talk about conduct by some council members, and I'm going to give you some examples. I'll tell you the examples that I witnessed myself, and I'll tell you if someone relayed information to me. I'm going to talk about confusing positions, confusing staff and the public about who they represent. And I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to talk to you about financial liability that the city faces because of the behavior of some council members. I'm going to talk to you about some legal issues, although that discussion will be short because I can't mention people's names because they have a right to privacy, but you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I'm going to talk about some financial issues that the city's facing and the loss of revenue. Now, we've had some speakers. I really appreciate this last speaker who said, if you have evidence, show me. Because there has been allegations flying around all over the place. A lot of allegations, and some of them are very, very serious. Which also lends to liability. Someone's making allegations against somebody, accusing them of significantly violating the law. No proof, no witnesses, no details. The city's responsible. You're responsible. That's who ends up going to be paying the bill. Now, we've had some other speakers talk about, you guys have had heartburn about these guys being elected since the election. I heard that at our meeting on Saturday meeting on the 31st, and I heard it twice here this evening. Let me tell you that nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing. That's wrong. It's wrong-headed, and I don't know. I don't know why. Well, I do know why someone would say that, and it's our fault that some people may think that. It's my fault, and I'll tell you why. Councilmember Hensley and Councilmember Figg, when they got elected, as I said on the 31st, was apprehensive, but a little bit excited. I have worked hard, extremely hard, to help these guys come up to speed, get to know the city, understand the rules. I've had them each over to my house a number of times. We've met for coffee. I've talked to them on the phone. And their behavior, no matter, they've received extra training. The city attorneys talked to them. But we haven't talked to you. We haven't let you know what's going on. Consequently, you're hearing allegations and all this kind of stuff from these guys, but you haven't heard anything from us. So all you know is what they've been telling you. So I can see how many of you might think that we've been hamstringing them and such. But it's not true. As I said, I have worked diligently to try and get along with these guys and try and help them out. But it's to the point to where the liability that's facing the city due to the behavior of these council people is, I have a fiduciary responsibility to watch out for you, to watch out for the citizens, to watch out for the well-being of the city. I can't sit silent anymore. You need to know what's going on. There was an attempt made on the 31st to bring things to light, put them on the table. The meeting probably wasn't held the best way possible, but it exploded and didn't get anywhere. So I put this committee issue on the agenda tonight to give it one more shot. I'm going to tell you why I'm concerned about people who represents the city on our committees. I'm going to take Mr. Hensley first. Mr. Hensley has taken the position and claimed, since he was elected, that he's not a team member of the city council, he's a community activist. That's his claim, not mine. He claims he's a community activist. Well, I don't know about you, but when I voted in 2014, my ballot said council member. But apparently, that's not a concern to Mr. Hensley. Mr. Hensley has continually thrown accusations at staff since he's been elected. Let me give you some examples. Mr. Hensley has accused staff of conducting business in secret. Mr. Hensley has equated staff's behavior to Oxnard city manager relative to the misuse of funds. Mr. Hensley has accused staff of giving contracts to friends. Mr. Hensley has accused staff of intentionally providing misleading information to the council. Mr. Hensley accuses staff of collusion. Mr. Hensley always is throwing a bomb, whether it's an innuendo or a direct accusation, and he has demoralized staff to the level that I have never seen in any organization in my 50 years of work. We have staff members that are embarrassed to ride in a city vehicle down the street because they think the citizens are looking at them and pointing at them. The productivity of staff is in the bucket due to accusations like that. Now, early on, I brought Mr. Hensley over to my house and I said, Jim, you can't do that. You can't accuse staff of stuff like that. If you have an issue, take it to the city manager and she'll work it out. That time when I did that, Mr. Hensley apologized to staff for doing that. I thought, good, we're making progress. But it hasn't stopped. It has continued and continued and continued. Another thing that Mr. Hensley said up at the dais here that irks me is one time we were having a city council meeting and the council was a little bit out of control and the the mayor was trying to regain control of the council, and Mr. Hensley leaned over and said to her, "Will you stop nagging me?" During a council meeting. And Jim uses the words transparency. He throws that out like it's some kind of, you know, I bet he's said it 100 times. I've heard him say it 100 times. Lack of transparency, lack of transparency. It's like a cue word to incite the uninformed. The city has lack of transparency. Now, along with trying to help these two council members get up to speed and learn the city and how to conduct business, Mr. Hensley, I've had staff report to me that when he has interacted with them, he has behaved as if he's a representative of some other agency. They're confused. Recently, Mr. Hensley went to the League of California Cities meeting and introduced himself as Jim Hensley of the Port Hueneme to come to the Banana Festival. I questioned who he represents. Maybe he doesn't think he represents the council. That's what he says. He wants to be a community activist. And he's all over the page. He's not representing you. Let's talk about financial liability a little bit. These accusations to staff now, Mr. Figg and Mr. Hensley can say what they want about me. I'm an elected official, and the law allows pretty much I can be attacked. I put myself in this spot when I ran to be an elected person. But our staff does not. Our staff deserves to work in a work environment that's not hostile. And that's the word I'm hearing, hostile work environment attributable to the behavior of these two people. Accusations, bullying, and like I say, we've remained pretty much silent on the issue, trying to work with them. So you haven't heard this side of the issue. All you've heard is that side of the issue, and from your perspective, it looks like now we're picking on them. We haven't liked them since they got elected. Not true. I have supported and endorsed many of the items, many of the ideas that these guys have come up with. Their ideas are not rejected. At least by me, I'm only one vote. Mr. Figg is a brilliant guy. He's smart. He's a hard worker. The ideas he came up with, the budget, 95% of them I appreciated and supported. He comes up with ideas all the time that are good. He's got a lot of experience. But his behavior is unacceptable. Staff feels like they're being bullied. He makes threats. Veiled threats of people's jobs. They don't do what he says. Who can work in that environment? Now, there's been mention of a lot of people leaving the city. Yes, there is. Some of them were going to leave anyway. Some of them said, well, who wants to work in this environment? I'm not sticking around here. We're going to have to be advertising to fill positions. Who's going to want to come here and work in this environment? Recruiting's not cheap. We're probably going to have to pay higher salary than normal to to the city manager to come here and try and help us work through this if we can. There's more expense. My real concern, though, is the liability that the city's facing on all these accusations that's being thrown out. People have a right to not be accused of something unless someone can provide some kind of proof. Who was it that said, gentlemen over here, I hear accusations, I don't hear any proof? That's right. There's tons of accusations coming out. Lack of transparency. Want me to go through them again?
No.
No proof. No details. Now the city's facing some potential lawsuits, and there may be more coming because of the behavior of some of these guys that I can't talk about out here. But let me tell you this. The city is insured by what's called JPIA, Joint Powers Insurance Authority. That's where a group of cities get together and they pool their money, and they have JPIA provides insurance for the city. It would not surprise me if the JPIA took a look at what our financial legal liabilities are because of the behavior that's going on here and cancel us. That would not surprise me. These liabilities are significant. Potential liabilities. And do you know what happens if the city loses its insurance? Nobody else will insure us. One incident, and we're bankrupt. Literally. This behavior is serious, and it needs to stop. And I've done everything I can to make it stop. The only thing I have left is you folks. And I hope by expressing to you the behavior of these guys and the liability that they're placing on the city, that you'll understand what's going on around here. We're not out to persecute them. I have no desire to harm either one of these gentlemen. But I do have a responsibility to the city of Port Hueneme. I want to talk about one more thing. When Jim and Bob got elected, they wanted to be on committees. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Bob, the other bad guy?
Yeah.
The other bad guy.
Sorry about that. When Jim and Tom got elected, they wanted to be on committees, and usually you get a year or two's experience before you get on a committee, you get the feel for local government. But I was anxious to help them get up to speed, get some experience, and I championed them to be on the Port Hueneme Water Agency Board. Councilmember Hensley is the board chairman. I was hoping they'd get experience and get to be working with staff and come on board, but again, the only thing coming out of Mr. Hensley's mouth is accusations to staff. One of the accusations was recently in the CitizensJournal, where it said that Mr. Hensley voted no for the city to have an opportunity of a $750,000 grant to help us resolve our water issues, because Mr. Hensley did not want to vote for, note that Mr. Hensley accused, and I'm assuming me, said just a council member, were you referring to me in that article?
I'll answer you when I have time, sir.
Okay.
You can leave. I thank you so much.
Okay. Giving no bid contracts to friends of councilmen. And I'm sure he's referring to a gentleman named Lynn Takaichi was the only action that day. I'm going to go back. Mr. Figg also voted no, but I believe he voted no for a different reason. It was a wrong-headed reason. I'll explain that in a minute. But he also voted no, caused the city to lose out on an opportunity for a $750,000 grant to help us take care of our water issues. Let me go back. I'm going to go back 20 years.
Really? Jesus.
Hang on. It's worth it.
20 years.
I was serving as public works director back then, and when I was hired, city manager was Dick Belfon. One of the things he said to me, we have a water crisis. We're running out of water. The Ventura County Groundwater Management Agency had instituted a reduction in available groundwater to the cities. They had in place a program that reduced the city's available groundwater 5% every 5 years, and it had been in place for quite a while. And the city of Port Hueneme had no other water available to it other than the groundwater. And the reduction in the groundwater available to the city of Port Hueneme placed us in jeopardy of not having enough water to serve our citizens. Mr. Belfon, I don't know where he found him, but he hired Lynn Takaichi. Lynn is very extremely knowledgeable in the water issues of Ventura County. He knows all the water players from Sacramento to San Diego. And Mr. Belfon charged us with coming up with a plan. How can we get Port Hueneme some water? Well, Port Hueneme owned a water allocation from the state water. We had no way to get it here. Lynn Takaichi, when we first put this program together, everybody from all the other water agencies and people I talked to in the cities, they all said, oh, you know, that's going to take you 10 years to put that program together. Lynn Takaichi did it in 4 years. There are water contracts upon water contracts upon water contracts that the city of Port Hueneme has. Most of them developed during the period of putting together the Port Hueneme Water Agency and resolving our issue of not having enough water. The program also took care of the water quality issues that